The stellar envoy gleamed against the backdrop of deep space, its sleek hull reflecting distant starlight as it approached the massive alien station. Inside the ship's diplomatic chamber, Ambassador Sarah Chen took a deep breath, studying the holographic briefing one final time. After decades of searching the cosmos, humanity had finally encountered an advanced civilization, the Aristarians. Final approach in 3 minutes, Ambassador. Captain Rodriguez's voice came through the comm system. Our hosts are particular about punctuality. Sarah straightened her formal uniform, a blend of Earth diplomatic corps designed with subtle modifications to appeal to Aristarian aesthetic sensibilities. The past month of preliminary communications had made one thing clear: these aliens valued precision and protocol above all else. Confirmed, Captain. Is Dr. Harrison ready with the biological survey data? Present and prepared, Ambassador. Dr. Emily Harrison's voice chimed in. The xenobiologist had spent weeks analyzing the limited data they have on Aristarian biology. Though I still have concerns about their request for complete genetic sequences from Earth's biosphere. Sarah understood those concerns all too well. The Aristarians had made their interest in Earth's biodiversity clear from first contact, though their exact motivations remained murky. Their own civilization, despite its technological advancement, seemed to lack the rich biological variety that characterized Earth. The ship shuddered slightly as docking clamps engaged. Through the viewport, Sarah watched as iridescent energy fields synchronized between vessels, creating a stable bridge. The Aristarian station was a marvel of engineering, a massive structure of crystalline alloys and flowing energy conduits that dwarfed their ship. Ambassador. Captain Rodriguez's voice was tense. Initial scans show over 30 high-ranking Aristarian officials in the reception chamber. This is unprecedented based on their documented protocols. Sarah's pulse quickened. Either this was a great honor or something was very wrong. Understood. Dr. Harrison, Captain, with me. Let's not keep our hosts waiting. The reception chamber took Sarah's breath away. Soaring ceilings of transparent crystal revealed the star-filled void beyond, while floating platforms of some liquid metal substance served as gathering spaces. The Aristarians themselves were even more striking in person, tall, elegant beings with silvery skin that seemed to shift colors with their movements. Their eyes, multifaceted like diamonds, reflected light in mesmerizing patterns. The tallest Aristarian glided forward, its movement impossibly graceful. Ambassador Chen of Earth, it spoke, its voice a harmony of tones. I am High Coordinator Vix. Your punctuality honors us. The universal translator rendered its speech perfectly, though Sarah sensed layers of meaning in the original harmonics. The honor is ours, High Coordinator. Sarah gave the formal greeting they'd been taught, a specific gesture of her hands that mimicked the flow of energy, sacred to Aristarian culture. We come seeking friendship and exchange of knowledge. Indeed, Vix's skin rippled with patterns of light, an emotional display Sarah wasn't yet trained to read. We have studied your preliminary data with great interest. Your world, it possesses something we lost long ago. Dr. Harrison stepped forward slightly. You refer to Earth's biodiversity? In part. Vix gestured, and a holographic display materialized between them. Sarah recognized Earth's double helix DNA structure, but it was surrounded by complex Aristarian script and diagrams. Your genetic structures contain patterns we thought impossible, adaptability we had thought lost to entropy itself. The other Aristarians moved closer, their skin patterns intensifying. Sarah felt the weight of their attention like a physical force. Something was definitely not following standard protocol here. High Coordinator, Sarah chose her words carefully. We're happy to share our scientific knowledge, but I sense there's more to your interest than academic curiosity. Vix's skin flared with bright patterns. Perceptive, Ambassador. Yes, we face a crisis. One that your species might uniquely be able to help us address. The alien's multifaceted eyes seemed to pierce right through her. Our civilization is dying, Ambassador Chen. Not quickly, not violently, but with the inexorable certainty of physics itself. Our genetic code is failing. Dr. Harrison's sharp intake of breath matched Sarah's own shock. Failing. How? We achieved effective immortality millennia ago. Another Aristarian official moved forward. We thought we had perfected our genome, removed all flaws. We were wrong. The very perfection we engineered into ourselves has become our doom. We cannot adapt, cannot change. Each generation becomes less stable than the last. Sarah's mind raced with implications. And you think something in Earth's genetic diversity might help? We know it will. Vikes's tone carried absolute certainty. The question is whether your species will help us, and what price you will demand for that help. The chamber fell silent. Sarah felt the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. This wasn't just first contact anymore. This was a moment that would define humanity's place in the cosmos. Their response here could shape the future of two civilizations. High Coordinator, Sarah straightened her spine, meeting those crystalline eyes directly. Humanity has always believed that great advances come through cooperation, not transaction. We would be honored to help, but as partners, not merchants. A ripple of color passed through the assembled Aristarians. Vix's skin patterns shifted to something almost like hope. Partners, the alien seemed to taste the word. Yes, perhaps that is exactly what both our species need. But even as preliminary agreements were made and formal protocols begun, Sarah couldn't shake a feeling of unease. The Aristarians were hiding something beyond their genetic crisis. As she watched Dr. Harrison begin sharing preliminary biological data, she made a mental note to have Captain Rodriguez double-check every scan, every transmission. Humanity was ready to help, but they wouldn't be naive about it. The future of both species might depend on finding the right balance between trust and caution. The challenge. 2 weeks into the diplomatic mission, Dr. Emily Harrison found herself in the Aristarians' primary genetics facility, surrounded by technology that made Earth's most advanced labs look primitive. Holographic DNA sequences floated in the air around her, complex molecular structures spinning and recombining in ways that defied conventional understanding. Your species' ability to process chaos is remarkable, senior geneticist Zara observed, her silver skin rippling with patterns of scientific curiosity. You see these random mutations, these imperfect sequences, and instead of revulsion you show excitement. Emily smiled, manipulating a particularly interesting protein chain with practiced gestures. Imperfection is what drives evolution, Zara. Each flaw is potentially a new adaptation, a new way to survive. The Aristarians' crystalline eyes refracted light in complex patterns. Yet you must understand our perspective, Dr. Harrison. We spent millennia eliminating such chaos from our genome. The idea of deliberately reintroducing it, a shudder passed through Zara's form. Which is exactly why you need us. Ambassador Chen's voice came from the laboratory entrance. She entered with High Coordinator Vix, both looking grave. Your perfect genome has backed you into an evolutionary dead end. Emily noticed the subtle tension in Sarah's stance. Something had happened. The ambassador continued, but before we proceed further, there are questions that need answering. Starting with why your initial scans of our ship focused so intensely on our reproductive systems. The laboratory fell silent. Zora's skin patterns shifted to something Emily's translator tagged as defensive. Vix stepped forward, multifaceted eyes scanning both humans. We had hoped to delay this discussion until more trust was established. The High Coordinator's harmonics carried complex undertones of discomfort. But you are correct. We have not been entirely forthcoming. A gesture from Vix brought up new holographic displays. Emily's scientific training couldn't suppress a gasp. The images showed Aristarian genetic structures literally unraveling, breaking down at a fundamental level. Our genetic perfection came at a price, Vix explained. Each generation, the breakdown accelerates. We can no longer reproduce naturally. Our artificial methods are failing. Within 3 generations, we face extinction. Sarah's diplomatic mask slipped slightly. And you believe human genetics hold the key? We know they do, Zara interjected, her patterns shifting rapidly. Your species' reproductive adaptability, your genetic diversity, it's exactly what we need. But simple gene splicing won't be enough. She hesitated. You need viable hybridization, Emily finished, the implications hitting her like a physical blow. You want to combine our species. Vic's skin rippled with confirmation. Your reproductive systems are remarkably compatible with ours, with the right modifications. We believe combining our genetics would save both our species. Your adaptability would cure our stagnation. Our advanced traits would enhance humanity's potential. Sarah stepped forward, eyes narrowing. And when were you planning to inform us of this? After we'd already shared our complete genetic database. We feared your species would react primitively to the suggestion, another Aristarian scientist admitted. Your entertainment media suggests humans often respond to genetic modification with horror. Emily found herself laughing, drawing startled looks from the Aristarians. You've been watching our science fiction movies. No wonder you were nervous. She turned serious. But we're not our entertainment. We're scientists, diplomats. We can handle complex discussions about our species' future. Prove it, Vix challenged suddenly. We have prepared a series of tests, problems that require both our species' strengths to solve. If your representatives can work with ours to complete these challenges, we will share everything. No more secrets. Sarah and Emily exchanged glances. The ambassador's slight nod conveyed volumes. This was what they'd been waiting for, a chance to truly understand their new allies' capabilities and intentions. We accept, Sarah declared formally. But we have conditions. All tests must be documented and shared with our ship. And we want full access to your genetic research data, not just selected portions. Vic's skin pattern shifted to something the translator didn't even try to interpret. Agreed. Though I warn you, these challenges will push both species to their limits. Are you prepared for that? Emily stepped forward, already examining the complex genetic puzzles appearing in the holographic displays. With respect, High Coordinator, pushing limits is what humans do best. When do we start? The tests began immediately. For hours, Emily and her team worked alongside the Aristarian scientists, tackling increasingly complex genetic and biological challenges. The aliens' perfect precision complemented human intuitive problem-solving in ways that surprised both species. But as they worked, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that these tests were measuring more than just scientific capability. The Aristarians watched their every reaction, every decision, with an intensity that suggested they were looking for something specific. Late in what passed for night on the station, she found Sarah in their assigned quarters, reviewing the day's data. They're testing our ethics, Emily said without preamble. These challenges, they're not just about whether we can help them, but whether we should. Whether we'll consider the moral implications. Sarah nodded slowly. I noticed. Each scenario gets progressively more complex, not just scientifically, but ethically. They want to know if we'll maintain our principles under pressure. And if we pass their tests, are we ready for what comes next? The implications of human Aristarian hybridization are staggering. The ambassador was quiet for a long moment, studying the star field visible through their window. We're not just discussing genetics anymore, Emily. We're talking about the future of both our species. The question isn't whether we're ready. It's whether we can afford not to be. As if in response to her words, a priority alert flashed on their screens. The next set of challenges was ready, and according to the brief description, they would make the previous tests look simple in comparison. Emily squared her shoulders, already heading for the door. Humanity had never backed down from a challenge before. They weren't about to start now. Understanding. The observation chamber hummed with tension as Dr. Emily Harrison manipulated the holographic controls, guiding a complex sequence of genetic modifications. Beside her, Zara's silver skin pulsed with patterns of concern. They were attempting their most ambitious experiment yet, a controlled merger of human and Aristarian genetic sequences. Protein stability at 60%, Emily announced, her fingers dancing through the luminous strands of DNA. Better than our last attempt. But still not sufficient for viable integration. Zara's harmonics carried frustration. Perhaps if we adjusted the base pairs. Wait. Emily sat back, running her hands through her disheveled hair. We're approaching this wrong. We keep trying to force our genetics to match your precision. Ambassador Chen, observing from the upper level with High Coordinator Vix, leaned forward. Over the past weeks, she'd learned to recognize when Emily was onto something. Instead of trying to perfect our sequences, Emily continued, pulling up new displays. What if we deliberately maintain some of their chaos? Create controlled uncertainty. The Aristarians in the chamber shifted uncomfortably. Their species' obsession with perfection ran deep. But Zara moved closer, her crystalline eyes studying the modified sequences. Explain, she commanded, but her skin patterns showed genuine curiosity. Emily's fingers flew over the controls. Look here and here. These imperfect sequences, they're not flaws. They're adaptation points. Places where the DNA can shift, evolve, respond to new conditions. What if instead of eliminating them, we use them as bridges between our species' genetics? High Coordinator Vix glided down to the main level, multifaceted eyes fixed on the display. You propose embracing uncertainty, using chaos as a tool. Exactly. Emily's excitement was palpable. Your precision provides the framework, our adaptability provides the flexibility. Together, they could create something entirely new, something better than either of us could achieve alone. Zara watched the Aristarians' reactions carefully. After weeks of working together, she'd gotten better at reading their subtle shifts in pattern and tone. What she saw now was unprecedented, hope mixed with fear, excitement tempered by deep cultural resistance. There's more, Emily added, bringing up new projections. This approach wouldn't just solve the genetic breakdown. It could open up entirely new possibilities for both our species. Controlled adaptation, directed evolution, but with safeguards against the stagnation that's threatening your people. Zara's skin suddenly flared with brilliant patterns. The quantum variance, of course. Her fingers joined Emily's at the controls, adding new layers to the simulation. If we apply your chaos theory to our quantum genetic stabilizers. The two scientists lost themselves in increasingly technical discussion, but Zara's attention was drawn to Vix. The High Coordinator's expression was unreadable, even to her practiced eye. Your species continues to surprise us, Ambassador, Vix said quietly. We expected you to approach this as a purely technical problem. Instead, you force us to confront our own preconceptions. Zara offered a diplomatic smile. That's rather the point of this exchange, isn't it? Both our species learning from each other. Indeed. Vix's tone carried complex harmonics. Though I wonder if you truly understand what you're proposing. This wouldn't just be a scientific exchange. If your Dr. Harrison's theory proves correct, it would fundamentally change both our species. Forever. I understand completely. Zara's voice was firm. The question is, are your people ready for that change? We've noticed the division among your leadership. Vix's skin patterns shifted to something Zara had never seen before. You are more observant than we credited. Yes, there is disagreement. Many of my people fear what this mixing with your species might mean. Our pursuit of perfection has been our driving force for millennia. The idea of deliberately introducing imperfection, even controlled imperfection. A commotion from the laboratory floor interrupted them. Emily and Zara were practically glowing with excitement. It's working. Emily's voice carried pure joy. The hybrid sequence is stable, and look at the adaptation potential. The holographic display showed a slowly rotating DNA structure, a beautiful fusion of human and Aristarian genetics. Even to Sarah's untrained eye, it looked right, neither human nor Aristarian, but something new, something that carried the strengths of both. Remarkable, Vix breathed, but this is only a simulation. The real tests will be considerably more challenging. A new voice cut in. First Coordinator Mix, leader of the conservative faction, swept into the chamber. And they will not proceed without full council approval. Sarah felt the temperature in the room seem to drop. The political tensions that had been simmering beneath the surface were about to boil over. First Coordinator, she stepped forward, positioning herself subtly between Mix and the research team. We welcome your input. Perhaps you'd like to review our latest findings. Mix's skin patterns were sharp, aggressive. I've seen enough, Ambassador. Your species' influence is already spreading dangerous ideas. Chaos, controlled imperfection. These concepts threaten everything we've built. They threaten your control, you mean? Emily spoke up, surprising everyone. She stood her ground as Mix turned those crystalline eyes on her. Your perfect, stable, dying society. Emily, Sarah cautioned, but the scientist wasn't finished. You can't stop evolution, Emily continued, her voice carrying the weight of conviction. You can only choose to guide it or be left behind by it. Right now, your species is facing exactly that choice. The chamber fell silent. Sarah watched the patterns ripple through the assembled Aristarians, seeing the impact of Emily's words. They were standing on the edge of something momentous, a potential transformation of two species. The only question was whether fear or hope would win out. And judging by the gathering storm in First Coordinator Mix's expression, they were about to find out which. Crisis point. Alarms blared through the Aristarian station, their haunting harmonics mixing with the sound of running feet and urgent communications. In the main genetics lab, Dr. Emily Harrison stared in horror at the readings flooding her screens. The containment field is failing. Zora's voice carried undertones the translator couldn't process. The experimental sequences are becoming unstable. Through the observation window, they could see the isolation chamber where their first successful human Aristarian hybrid cell culture glowed with an increasingly erratic light. What should have been a controlled demonstration had turned into a potential catastrophe. This is impossible. Emily's fingers flew across the controls. These patterns, this isn't natural degradation. Someone deliberately introduced a destabilizing agent. Ambassador Sarah Chen burst into the lab, her usual diplomatic composure cracking. We need to evacuate. Now. First Coordinator Mix is calling for an immediate termination of all hybrid research. He's convinced the Council that the risk is too high. Termination. Zora's skin flashed with patterns of shock. But the containment breach, if they shut down power to the labs now. The hybrid sequences would be released into the station's air filtration system, Emily finished grimly, affecting both humans and Aristarians. High Coordinator Vix swept into the chamber, followed by a team of emergency response specialists. We have 18 minutes before the Council enforces emergency shutdown. Ambassador, your ship is prepared for immediate evacuation. We're not leaving, Sarah's voice was steel. Not while there's a chance to contain this. Emily was already deep in the system diagnostics. Look at this, she called out. The destabilizing agent. It's keyed specifically to target the adaptive sequences we introduced. This wasn't an accident. Someone wanted to prove hybrid genetics were too dangerous to pursue. Zora's crystalline eyes flashed with understanding. Mix. He would rather destroy the research than allow our society to change. Politics later, Sarah cut in. Solutions now. What are our options? Emily and Zara exchanged glances. The hybrid sequences are actually trying to adapt to the destabilizing agent, Emily explained. If we could speed up that process, guide it. You want to encourage further mutation. Vix's skin patterns showed alarm. In an already unstable sample. Sometimes you have to embrace chaos to restore order. Emily's voice carried absolute conviction. Zara, remember our early discussions about controlled uncertainty? This is exactly what those adaptation points were designed for. Warning indicators flashed red across every screen. The containment field's integrity dropped another 10%. Whatever you're going to do it fast, Sarah urged, watching the emergency timer count down. Mix's security teams are on their way. Emily's hands moved across the controls with practiced precision, while Zara interfaced directly with the Aristarian systems. They worked in perfect synchronization, human intuition merging with Aristarian precision. "We need more processing power," Zara announced. "The calculations." "Use my ship's computers," Sarah offered immediately. "Captain Rodriguez is standing by." "That's not protocol," one of VIX's security team objected. "Neither is sabotaging genetic research," Sarah shot back. "Make the connection." The next few minutes were a blur of intense activity. Emily watched in fascination as the hybrid sequences responded to their modifications, fighting back against the destabilizing agent in ways neither human nor Aristarian science had predicted. "Look at this," she breathed. "The adaptation isn't just random, it's purposeful. The sequences are actually learning." Zara's patterns shifted to something the translator labeled as awe. Impossible. Yet, the lab doors slid open with a hiss. First Coordinator Mix stood there, flanked by security forces. "Step away from the controls. This experiment ends now. If you shut it down," Emily didn't even look up from her work, "you'll release mutated sequences throughout the station. Is that what you want? To prove your point at the cost of everyone's lives?" "Better that than the extinction of everything we are." Mix's harmonics were harsh. "Our perfection is what defines us." "Your perfection is killing you." Sarah stepped forward. "And now you compound that by risking thousands of lives. Look at what's happening in that chamber. Really look." All eyes turned to the containment field. The hybrid sequences had stabilized into something new, something that pulsed with controlled, purposeful energy. "Complete adaptation achieved," Zara announced, her voice filled with wonder. The sequences didn't just survive the destabilizing agent. They've incorporated it, turned it into something beneficial. This is beyond anything we thought possible." "It's beautiful," Emily whispered. The new genetic patterns flowing across her screen showed a perfect blend of stability and adaptability, precision and potential. Mix moved forward, crystalline eyes fixed on the display. For a long moment, no one breathed. "You would change everything we are," he said finally. "No," Emily turned to face him. "We would help you become what you could be, what both our species could be, together." The emergency timer continued its countdown, but now all attention was on Mix. In his decision lay the future of both species. Sarah watched the patterns ripple across his silver skin, seeing the war between fear and possibility play out in alien form. She had seen that same conflict in human eyes throughout history, the moment when the fear of change met the hope of something better. The future hung in the balance, waiting for his choice. Innovation. First Coordinator Mix's hand hovered over the emergency shutdown control. The hybrid sequences in the containment chamber pulsed with their new, stabilized energy, casting shifting patterns across his silver skin. The timer showed less than 5 minutes remaining. "You speak of potential," he said finally, his harmonics complex. "But you cannot guarantee the outcome. Our society is built on certainty. And that certainty is killing you." Emily stepped closer, her voice gentle but firm. "Look at what we just witnessed. When faced with destruction, these sequences didn't just survive, they evolved. They found a way to turn a weapon into a tool. Just as our species must do now," Zara added, her patterns shifting with newfound confidence. "First Coordinator, what we're seeing isn't the death of our civilization, it's its renewal." Sarah moved to stand beside Emily, her diplomatic training reading the subtle shifts in Mix's posture. "Your people sought perfection," she said carefully. "But perhaps true perfection isn't static. Perhaps it's the ability to adapt while maintaining your essential nature. The containment chamber hummed with energy as the hybrid sequences continued their dance of evolution. On the screens, data scrolled showing unprecedented levels of stability combined with adaptability. 3 minutes to emergency shutdown, the station's AA announced tonelessly. High Coordinator Vix stepped forward. First Coordinator, I formally request you resign the shutdown order. The evidence before us. Evidence. Mixed patterns flared. I see contamination, chaos, the end of everything we've built. Then you're not looking closely enough. Emily's voice cracked with intensity. She manipulated the controls, bringing up new displays. These sequences aren't destroying your genetic patterns, they're completing them. Look here and here. The precision you valued, it's still there, but now it has purpose, flexibility, life. The screens filled with complex molecular structures showing the hybrid sequences at work. Even to the Aristarian's enhanced vision, it was like watching art being created at the genetic level. 2 minutes to emergency shutdown. Zora suddenly straightened, her patterns flashing with realization. The quantum resonance. Emily, are you seeing this? Yes. Emily's fingers flew across the controls. The hybrid sequences aren't just stable, they're generating new patterns, self-correcting patterns. In plain language, Doctor, Sarah prompted, watching Mick's reaction. They're doing exactly what we hoped, Emily explained, excitement building in her voice. Creating a framework that combines Aristarian precision with human adaptability. But it's more than that. The sequences are actively repairing genetic damage. They could reverse the degradation, Zara finished, not just in future generations, but in existing Aristarians. The lab fell silent except for the hum of equipment and the AI's continuing countdown. Mick stepped closer to the displays, his crystalline eyes reflecting the dancing patterns of genetic code. 1 minute to emergency shutdown. First Coordinator, Sarah spoke softly. Throughout human history, we faced moments like this. Moments where we had to choose between the comfort of the known and the potential of the new. Every great advancement, every leap forward, required someone to take that risk. And how many of those risks led to disaster? Mix challenged, but his harmonics held a note of uncertainty. Some did, Emily acknowledged. But without taking those risks, we'd still be living in caves, afraid of fire. Your people mastered the genetics of perfection. Now let us help you master the genetics of growth. 30 seconds to emergency shutdown. Mick's hand still hovered over the shutdown control. The patterns across his skin shifted through complex emotions the translator couldn't begin to process. The council, he began. We'll follow your lead, Vix interjected, as they always have. The question is, where will you lead them? 15 seconds. Emily stepped forward, her hand outstretched in a gesture of cooperation. Let us show you what we can achieve together. 10 seconds. The hybrid sequences pulsed, their light reflecting off the silver skin of every Aristarian in the room. In that glow, the distinction between human and alien seemed to fade, showing instead the potential of what they could become. 5 seconds. Mick's hand moved. Emergency shutdown cancelled, the AI announced. Containment protocols maintaining stability. The tension in the room broke like a wave. Sarah let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Zora's patterns erupted in what could only be joy. A risk, Mick said quietly, his eyes still fixed on the swirling genetic display, must be measured against its necessity and its potential reward. He turned to face the assembled humans and Aristarians. It seems we have much work to do. Emily was already back at her station, Zara at her side. The hybrid sequences are showing new patterns of organization. If we can understand how they achieve this stability, we'll need to modify our quantum containment protocols, Zara added, her patterns showing intense focus. And the genetic transfer mechanisms will require complete redesign. Sarah watched them work, seeing in their cooperation the future they had all fought for. human creativity and Aristarian precision, working in harmony to forge something entirely new. The path ahead would not be easy. There would be resistance, setbacks, moments of doubt, but they had crossed the hardest threshold, the choice to embrace change rather than fear it. In the containment chamber, the hybrid sequences continued their dance, showing them the way forward. Legacy. 1 year after the crisis that nearly ended the human-Aristarian collaboration, Ambassador Sarah Chen stood before the newly constructed Convergence Center. The massive structure, a seamless blend of Earth and Aristarian architecture, rose in gleaming spirals against the station's star-filled backdrop. Remarkable how much can change in a year, High Coordinator Vix observed, his skin patterns showing quiet satisfaction, though I doubt any of us could have predicted this outcome. Sarah smiled, watching teams of humans and Aristarians entering the facility. When we first arrived, your people barely tolerated our primitive presence. Now look at us, building the future together. Inside the main research chamber, Dr. Emily Harrison and Zara supervised the latest generation of hybrid genetic sequences. The containment field now housed dozens of successful cultures, each one representing a new possibility for both species. Latest neural enhancement trials are showing 98% compatibility, Emily reported, not looking up from her work. The integration of Aristarian quantum processing with human neural plasticity is exceeding all projections. And the reproductive viability rates. First Coordinator Mix had entered quietly, his presence no longer carrying the tension it once had. The events of the past year had transformed him as much as anyone. Zara's patterns shifted to display pride. Full stability achieved in all test samples. The first generation of true human Aristarian children could be viable within months if the Council approves. The Council, Mixed Harmonics carried a note of amusement, is still adapting to the concept of unpredictable outcomes, but they can no longer deny the results. Those results were visible throughout the station. Aristarians who had received the hybrid genetic treatments showed unprecedented neural flexibility while maintaining their species' natural precision. Humans who volunteered for the program displayed enhanced cognitive capabilities and improved cellular regeneration. "We've done more than save your species," Sarah observed. "We're evolving together, creating something entirely new." Not without cost, Vix reminded them. Change never comes easily. They all remembered the protests, the resistance from both sides. Some humans feared losing their essential nature, while conservative Aristarians predicted the end of their civilization. But the success of the program spoke for itself. Speaking of change, Emily pulled up a new display. You should see what the latest hybrid sequences are doing. They're not just combining our traits anymore, they're generating entirely new possibilities. The holographic display showed genetic structures that seemed to dance with potential, patterns that were neither human nor Aristarian, but something more, something that carried the strengths of both while transcending their limitations. "It's beautiful," Zara's patterns rippled with wonder. "Each generation brings new developments we couldn't have imagined." "Like your ancestors couldn't have imagined this," Sarah gestured around them. "A year ago, your society was trapped in a prison of perfection. Now you're helping to chart the course of evolution itself." Mix's crystalline eyes reflected the swirling genetic displays. "We thought we had reached the pinnacle of development. In our pride, we nearly destroyed ourselves. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson humans have taught us, that true perfection lies not in achieving a final state, but in the endless journey of becoming." The chamber's doors slid open as more researchers arrived, humans and Aristarians working seamlessly together, their differences becoming advantages rather than barriers. Among them were the first volunteers for the full genetic integration program, pioneers willing to become the bridge between species. "The first ships from Earth will arrive next month," Sarah announced. "More scientists, more volunteers, more possibilities." And the Aristarian delegation to Earth reports similar enthusiasm there. "Fear giving way to hope," Vix observed. Though questions remain, what will our descendants become? Where will this path lead? Emily looked up from her work, her eyes bright with the joy of discovery. That's the best part. We don't know. We can project, we can guide, but the potential is limitless. Every day brings new questions, new challenges, new opportunities. A perpetual journey of discovery. Zara's patterns showed excitement. Our precision guided by human creativity, their adaptability enhanced by our understanding. Together, we're writing the next chapter in the story of life itself. Through the chamber's vast windows, they could see both their home worlds, Earth a distant blue jewel, the Aristarian homeworld a crystalline sphere. Between them, ships moved back and forth, carrying more people, more ideas, more dreams of what might be. We came seeking first contact, Sarah reflected, and found instead a transformation, not just of our bodies, but of our understanding of what's possible. And this is only the beginning, Emily added, already turning back to her work. The real question is, what will we discover next? The hybrid sequences continued their eternal dance in the containment field, each pattern a promise of things to come. Human and Aristarian stood together, watching the future unfold before them, a future they would shape together, step by unexpected step, into infinity. In the end, they had all learned the same lesson, that the greatest strength comes not from perfection, but from the courage to embrace change, to reach across the void, and to dream of what might be possible together. The stars stretched out before them, infinite in their promise, as humanity and the Aristarians began their greatest adventure, not just meeting the future, but creating it, one discovery at a time.